And hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another exciting episode of the Bent Fender Podcast. I am Nathan Conway, driver of the number 40 stock car, your host. And with me, as always, is Wes, the trunk, Lou Allen. I just thought it would be cool. We got to change it up a little bit. So you're the trunk today. You're the Iceman last time. You're the trunk today.
Okay.
No loss for words. Well, anyway, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode. And we appreciate you being here with us and taking these journeys. Got another huge episode today. John Hayden, owner of Mach 5 Racecars and Parts and local legend here on the asphalt. Been racing for years, about 25 years, and he's going to be coming on the show with us today, and it's going to be a good time. I really believe that. It's always a good time to sit and talk to him, and we're going to probably hear some stories and hopefully get a little insight, especially with the state of racing. So I can't wait for that.
It's again, I guess I can say this every single episode, and maybe once we get into season 2 or whatever, I can stop saying it. But first time I've met him, or the first time I've been around, he's an asphalt driver.
Yes.
He from what I understand, has done some dirt, but for the most part, he's an asphalt racer. Therefore, he's a new one in my book.
Yeah, that's true. And the worlds of asphalt and dirt are very different, but a lot of similarities. It's still racing, still stock car racing.
Yeah.
Just cars handle a little different. You got to do some little different driving ability to be on both. But like I said, he's raced on dirt a little bit, but made his name and his career on the high banks of some of the local asphalt tracks, whether it be Highland Rim, Kentucky Motor Speedway, the Salem Speedway. Different places, so it's pretty neat that he's coming on. Oh, and don't forget Nashville Fairgrounds Speedway. So I'm
going to bet that though, as a fan, if I walk away from one of his races, I'm not going to have part of the track in my pocket.
You're probably not, but it's to each his own. It's kind of like baseball, football people. Some people are just diehard football, don't care anything about baseball, and then some people are just like, football's not my thing, man. I love baseball. So,
well, and I think we've talked about it before, and I don't know if we've ever talked about it on air, but when I was growing up, my dad was a huge NASCAR fan.
Right.
I can't really say if he had a specific driver that was his guy, but I remember this was VHS days. My dad would record the races, on a VHS, and then sit down and watch them, a couple more times after that first initial watching. And I never could understand, why that was something that he would do. But, he was always a huge fan of asphalt racing and things like that. So there wasn't much dirt racing happening, where we grew up and everything. So it's been just in the past couple of years that I've been more familiar with that.
Well, NASCAR and being a fan of NASCAR in the 80s and the 90s is different than being a fan of NASCAR now. It's a lot different, and the cars were different, the drivers were different. But here's the thing: it's you can liken it to what we do locally here. The drivers are a little different than they were maybe back in the 80s or the 90s.
Sure.
But the essence of the racing has stayed the same. Configurations and that aside of racetracks, but the racing is basically the same. I mean, we do kind of the same thing every week at whether it be Windy Hollow, Cedar Ridge, or Kentucky Motor Speedway, Highland Rim. So it's close to what it used to be.
Well, and I bet the one thing that they all have in common, regardless of what time frame it is, they all make left turns.
They do.
A lot of left turns.
Well, unless you're running figure 8. And I can tell you from experience, it's a lot of fun. It's just dangerous.
I can imagine. But no, we're gonna again walk away from the Whitesville kitchen table, pack our show up and go on the road.
Yeah,
not too far away.
We're going on tour. Yeah, we're gonna go down to John's shop and take a little field trip. And he's welcoming us in, and we appreciate that. You guys don't understand how we appreciate that.
Always.
When guys will invite us into their homes, into their businesses, take time out of their day, out of their family's life, and especially their business.
Yep.
That means a lot to us, and that's something that tells us that they're just as into it as we are.
Mm-hmm.
And for somebody to be doing that. Because somebody could view that as a hassle. And we really do appreciate, because it is absolutely no hassle to us to pack our stuff up. Takes 5-6 minutes. We can pack it up, take it wherever, and set it up in another 5 to 6 minutes. So it's not hard to do. So, what else happened since the last time we recorded? We went to the races. We got to go to the opening night of Windy Hollow.
We did. That was cool. We got to see some good feature action.
Mm-hmm. We've been to Paducah.
We have. As far as Windy Hollow goes, it was my first time seeing mods at Windy Hollow. Mm-hmm. So that was, I'll be honest, it was a little scary. They were a lot closer to me, going much faster than I expected. Yeah. Because at the grandstands at Windy Hollow, you're right there, right in the action.
Yeah, you are, and that's the good thing about Windy Hollow. It makes it a lot of a fan favorite track, is because you are so close to the action. And Jake Schown was talking about that same thing. Is you're just right on top of the track, and a lot of these other places, I mean, you're sitting so far away, for safety, and again, Windy Hollow, it's just a lot of fun. It's unique, and the Westerfields had a big opening night. I didn't get to get out there. You and I didn't get out there until feature time. Thankfully, it worked out for our benefit that they were had some lighting issues and stuff like that. We don't want to see that happen.
No,
but got to go out there and watch all the features, and it was a good time. I like being at Windy Hollow.
Lots of friendly faces and familiar faces,
right? And we got to talk to a few people about the podcast, and it's slowly but surely getting out of there, getting out. The more people we can tell about it, the better off we'll be, I think. And the more shows we get, we'll definitely, I think, keep steadily going up.
Agreed. And, we are building, a fan base. And we do have people that are really excited about what we're doing. And they want to see us continue to grow and do things. And as we're continuing to get more listeners and people providing more feedback, we're only going to get better.
Yeah.
And we do kind of want to offer some incentive for people to like what we're doing. Mm-hmm. I think you and I talked about this briefly.
All right.
There may be a giveaway.
Yeah.
On the horizon.
I'm kind of planning that. We're getting more people to download the podcast. We're getting more people to like the racing page. I think that if we can hit 300 on the racing page, we're close. We're in the 270s.
We are.
So if we can hit 300 on the racing page, if we can hit at least, what do you think, 350 downloads?
We're gonna pass that easy. So
Okay.
let's
375?
challenge them. 375.
Okay, we can hit 375 downloads, and we'll let you know. We'll let everybody know on the racing page to where we're at. Close. We're close. It's we're right at about 330 right now. So, if we do that, I'm gonna plan a giveaway. So,
you know how Nathan likes a deal. He likes giveaways even more.
I do like giveaways because I like to make people happy. But I also want people to follow us, and I also want people to be interested in what we're doing. And, if we have to give some stuff away, then we will. I mean, you never know what it might be. It could be a cardboard box or, a bag of kitty litter or something.
Maybe some purple power.
We've had our run-ins with that stuff. But yeah, ladies and gentlemen, I think that'll be a good deal. We've already done a giveaway once this year, and when the racing page got started, and we haven't done one since. Don't want people to get to, think it's an all the time thing, because
Right.
I think it makes it more special when
It does.
we can slowly feed the baby birdies with their cool stuff.
Agreed.
So their swag. Speaking of swag, got the hats in.
We did.
We did get the hats in. Had a little hiccup with the shirts, but that's okay. We're getting that fixed, and we're gonna have those very, very soon. And
we could have had them, but we want to make sure that we're representing not only Conway Racing Team, but the printer that we worked with. We want to make sure that everyone involved is represented, as appropriately and as best as we can.
Right. Yeah.
So we want you to have a quality product. We want them to put out a quality product. So, just bear with us. Hopefully, within the next couple days, we'll have them in your hands.
yeah, guys. I mean, we're absolutely not wanting to to let it go by the wayside. We want to have the best product that we can.
Yep.
And, we're hoping, and we want to get that in people's hands. We want to get those out to these racetracks and let people, see them. And, hopefully we can garner some interest. We'll start round 2 of the shirts and hats.
Yep.
Which would be cool. I think, anyway.
I think so, too.
Yeah, so recapping, 300 likes and follows on the page.
375
downloads on
the podcast.
And we will do a giveaway. It'll be bigger than the last time. We gave away a $25 gift card to Texas Roadhouse last time. I think it needs to be a little more racing related this time. Maybe dinner and a racing experience or something. I don't know. Probably not dinner at the racetrack. I mean, unless you just want hamburgers and things. But
well, if we wait until later in the evening,
I don't know if we can get gift certificates to the Slide Job Cafe at Windy Hall Speed.
But if we wait till later in the evening, it'll be cheaper for us.
That's true.
Yeah. $1 hamburgers.
That's right. Half price all cooked items. I mean, Jake told us how it is.
Absolutely.
Guys, again, we want to say we appreciate what you guys are listening and giving us feedback and wanting to hear people, and you keep them coming. Get in touch with us. Get in touch with us on the racing page. Send us a message. Tell us what you like. Tell us what you don't like.
Well, I'm going off the cuff here. I'm going to pull something out of my pocket. Nathan has no idea what I'm about to say, but first person to comment, give us a comment of what they like about our podcast on the link that Nathan's going to put up. Every week he puts up a link showing that the episode's out. First person to comment what they like gets a sticker. Gets a 4x2 Conway Racing sticker.
That's sweet, man.
So
good stuff.
I'm
Stick
made
it wherever you like.
Executive decision.
Cool. Guys, let's talk about real quick where you can find the podcast. You can find us on iTunes for your Apple users, Google Play for the Android users. We're on Podcast Addict, Podbean.com, Stitcher, Spotify, Tuned In, and
YouTube.
You can find us on the website, www.conwayracingteam.com. There's links there to the podcast. You can listen to them on your personal computer if you choose not to listen to them on your mobile device. You can find us on Facebook, Conway Racing Team, Twitter @Conway Race Team, Instagram, Conway Racing. Our sponsors here at the podcast, Mach 5 Racecars and Parts, which you'll hear a lot about here in just a few minutes. Fairview IT Management, Martin's Towing and Recovery, Chad's Barbershop, Glenstone Construction, and Slingshot Media. As always, we're affiliated with Casper Racing, Phantom 309 Racing, and Blaze Mountain Racing. So
absolutely.
Yep. So it's good stuff. Well, here we are at that point where we have rambled too far. The appetizer has been served, and it's now cold.
It is.
So we need to bring on the main course. So you guys stick with us, and we're going to go to a commercial. We come back after the break. We'll be back with John Hayden. Just wanted to take a second here on the podcast to recognize one of our good friends and sponsors. It's going to be Gabriel Kirtley down there at Fairview IT Management. They're based out of Owensboro, Kentucky, and they're here to help you with pretty much any of and all of your computer needs.
Yeah, they offer residential services or business services, whether you want to back your photos up online to make sure you don't lose them, virus management, or if you need some help getting some new technology set up, they can take care of it for you. For your businesses, they offer all sorts of solutions, and all you have to do is give them a call at 270-228-4339.
And I think you can probably go ahead and find them online as well.
Yeah, their web address is fairviewitm.com.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're back, and I promised you from the start it'd be another big show, as they all are here at the Bent Fender Podcast. Took another field trip today. I'm down on West 2nd Street. We're at Mach 5 Racecars and Parts. The man himself is a local legend around here on the asphalt. Definitely, one of the guys I grew up watching, especially at Kentucky Motor Speedway and other places. That's going to be Mr. John Hayden. We're going to bring him in now. John, welcome to the show, buddy.
Thank you. I appreciate you having me on. I think this, what y'all got going on is great. It's what the racing community, needs. That way guys can get kind of let everybody know what they got going on, their sponsors. So I really feel like, this is y'all going in the right direction with this.
Well, and we appreciate feedback like that, and we appreciate all feedback. I mean, even if you didn't like it, if you thought it was garbage, we're here to have you come on and make it better for sure. But that's what we set out to do. It's not just to help us, and we've said that from day one. It's to help other people too. And I know, you've kind of transitioned from the driving side right now to where you're an owner. You sell parts and you run local racing series with the go-karts and different things. But, we appreciate you being on with us. it means a lot to us.
Yeah, I appreciate it, and like I said, I think back in the when we first started racing, we didn't have this, and I think that was kind of hard, for us to get sponsors, because we really had no way to get their names out there besides being on the race car, and the sponsors wanted a lot more than that, when we first started racing. So I really feel like any way we can, bring the, the sponsors to try to get their names out more, that's only going to help the racers and guys. It's going to help at the tracks, to get more cars.
Well, sponsors, and I know that you've seen it for a lot of years, and how sponsors, a lot of times you got to be careful because these guys get burnt, and you want to give them the maximum for their dollar, and
right.
And I think where we can do that here. And you as a business owner can definitely relate. I'm sure you want to get the most out of your advertising. So
right, and I've seen that this year. We've really tried to find ways. This is our 4th year with the parts business,
right.
and we've tried just different avenues to advertise the business, and just really hadn't had much luck.
Right.
And as soon as we, like this year, we're going to do a class sponsor and do the parts trying stuff out Windy Hollow.
Right.
And as soon as that got out, it's like, our business picked up right from then.
Right.
Anything, we can do to try to promote our business, hey, we're all for it.
Yeah. Well, we want to get into that, and we will here in just a couple minutes, but I want to throw it back. We talked about when your racing career started, and that's where we want to start. How long have you been in the sport? Did you start out a driver? Did you start out as a crewman? Did your dad, your uncle, or somebody take you to the racetrack? How did you get started?
Well, I pretty well grew up around racing, from a young age. My I know my dad was, racing before I was even born.
Right.
But, that was my life, basically. When I was growing up, my dad raced. He had other guys, he owned cars,
Right.
that he had, different drivers in the cars. He had, I can name a few, I don't know them all, but I know like Buzzy Reynolds, John Hamburg, Mark Green, Steve Evans.
Right. Those are big names.
Yeah.
I mean, around especially the asphalt world.
Right, and so I was always around it as a young age, but I really never got kind of working on the cars. I would just kind of go and hang out, I never really got hands-on until I was probably about, I'm going to say around 15, 16 years old. Then I started working on the cars.
Had you cleaning the lug nuts and
just
wiping the windshield?
Just whatever, the small stuff
Yeah.
that a lot of the guys didn't want to do, but I was just around it, and I started, working. I started working on my dad's stuff, and he pretty well run late models, around the around KMS. He adventured, raced quite a bit down at Nashville Fairgrounds, and when Mark Green started driving, they started running some, like some ASA races and stuff like that, and traveling a little bit. But I was probably around 15 or 16 when I started working on the cars, and up to the point when I started driving, I was probably around 20 years old when I started driving, and I started at KMS, and the bomber class was the first class there that we raced and built the car.
Some of those bombers were serious back then, though.
Right.
Well, I wanted to just before you get into that, your dad. You talk about your dad, and maybe for the people who don't know, who was your father?
Rudy Hayden.
Rudy Hayden.
Yep.
Yeah. And a lot of guys, will probably know, especially people that were around, what about the 70s?
Oh, yeah.
Early 80s, would know Rudy. So that's pretty cool, man. So you started out in the bomber class.
Yep, I raced, like I said, the first year there. I think it was right around 90 or 91 was my first year.
Right.
But like I said, from 15, 16 years old for about 4 years there, I helped worked on his stuff, and even helped Steve Evans. He had, run some dirt races at the old Mike Henry and Windy Hollow, and so I just kind of, it was always kind of something I wanted to do, and I just, that year before, I brought a car in, and kind of built it myself, and I'd work on a lot of it that I built was by myself, and I can remember my dad coming out there about 9:30, 10 o'clock, and he'd look over what I was doing. He wouldn't be out there helping me,
right?
But he'd come out and look, what I'd done, and he'd kind of point out, I think you need to do this a little bit different, But that first year, we from there on, it's been, every year, I think, I quit driving myself. It was in 2014 was the last time I raced, but. Right. So that's going on, 25 years that I raced.
That's a pretty good, that's a pretty long career in these standards, especially locally. You were sitting there saying that, talking about building it by yourself. I think that's one of those things where, and I think your dad was thinking this as well, it gives you a greater appreciation. Mm-hmm. To do it yourself, to get out there, turn those bolts, weld the bars, and different things. I don't know if you feel that way, but to me personally, I kind of think that when you build it yourself, you have a greater appreciation, and you got more of a sense of pride when you did it that way.
Yeah, and I think too, it's it helps you as a driver too. For one, you're gonna try to take care of your equipment better. Because you don't want to be the following week fixing everything you tore up. So, I think that, that kind of helped me a lot, build my own cars. I always did. Right. Of course, when we got up into the late models and stuff, I wasn't building them, we was buying our chassis and stuff, but, like the street cars and sportsmen and stuff like that, we built them all from pretty well the ground up. And, I just think it helped me, as a racer, to kind of know what you got, when you're there, if you got an issue, you know how to fix it. You don't have to rely on somebody else, know.
Well, that is important, and knowing, especially setup wise and different things and what you can do at the racetrack to make yourself better. When you do get up into the higher classes, you were talking about, having to buy your own chassis and things like that. And I think that may be a necessity sometimes, when you get into those levels of racing. Mm-hmm. But, I've always been a do-it-myself guy. I learned from people, obviously, that helped me, but they wanted me to do it. Right. And that's anybody that's ever helped me, I want them to get in there and do it. Now, I'm going to watch, obviously, because it's my car, but, that's how I approach it as well. So.
Right, yeah. And I learned from, whenever my dad, the guys, he always had good guys that worked on his cars. He always had, I can always remember 3 or 4 guys that always was out there in the garage, and they all were mechanically inclined, and I learned by watching a lot of them, the way they did things, and just,
right.
So I used that, kind of when I started doing my own stuff.
Well, and again, for a lot of guys that don't know, and we'll get into a little bit of advice later on, but a lot of guys that don't know, it is important to do it yourself, and it's important to listen to guys who have had success. You don't, to me, myself, and I've gotten into this whole, is you don't want to listen to too many people, but you want to listen to the right people.
Right.
And I think that, your career shows that you definitely listen to the right people and you grew up in the right time,
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and I had, you can't do it by yourself, and no means can you. But, when I did race, I had guys that were, good, that was helping me, and that's real important to get, hooked up with the right people. You're only going to, that saying, you're only going to race the way that the people that are helping you, you know what I'm saying? If you got people that really don't know, you're probably not going to race very good. But, you just got to kind of surround yourself with good people. And I just always try to do that,
Well, and you don't want to have any weak links on a team.
Right.
Because that can derail your operation, quick as anything. And like I said, that's pretty cool how you've always used that to your advantage. And we talk about guys getting gray areas. It's not always about building the biggest engine or the the best transmissions or having the best racing parts. We echo something that Josh Harris said on the last episode, and a lot of that preparation comes from the garage.
Right.
And you can win races sitting right there on those jack stands.
Yep, you're right. And that was my theory from the get-go, from the first year. I just felt like that it was unacceptable to get beat on the racetrack because of mechanical issues. I just didn't accept that. Right. And I had no doubt that I probably in all my years, I outworked my competitors, in the shop. If it took me to be in that shop every single day, every night, that's what I did, But I just always felt like that, the win races, it was in the shop. That's where you win races at. You don't wait till you get to the racetrack and figure it out then. It's done in the shop,
right.
And and I translate that over with with working on Blake stuff.
Mm-hmm.
It's just really, to me, I can't. There's things that happen. Sometimes there's things that you can't, that you have no control over. But just little things that takes you out of a race, I just can't accept that, and but I just always felt like that in my mind I was always going to outwork my competitors, and I really got to the point. I felt like that probably, at KMS, I felt like that my cars, setup wise and mechanically wise, was a little bit ahead of my competitors.
Right.
I kind of took it to the next level, setup stuff. I just was always researching stuff. I was always trying to find the extra edge. Not cheating wise, but just trying to get better setups and better shocks and stuff like that. And I feel like I was probably, as a driver, there guys that I was racing against, we were probably equal, but I felt like my cars, were a little bit more advanced.
Right.
And especially when we went to Nashville, started racing down Nashville,
mm-hmm.
It's kind of like then I really started learning a lot more as far as when it comes to setups and the race cars, and it really showed once we were racing down there. Then we'd come back here to Whitesville and race. It really showed.
Right.
It always felt that way too when I was around here racing. Guys that would come from the Tennessee area and come down, I feel like they always was, a couple years ahead of everybody around here for some reason, and then once I started going down there and racing for, I was down there for probably 5 or 6 years racing, and I learned, I figured out what, I could see it that them guys were just so much more advanced than what I was when they'd come and race against me here at Whitesville,
Yeah.
But yeah, you're right. I mean, you win races, in the shop is where you win races at.
Well, and we talk about, having sponsor dollars and buying more shocks or buying better shocks or different, different gears or things like that, motor parts. But, a lot of it is, and again, I want to throw to Josh Harris on that, is just like he said, is there's a lot of this stuff is free. Mm-hmm. And where do you have to spend your time? A lot of this stuff is free, and it's to learn. And just like you said, you kind of stepped out of the box of just the local circuit and got into a track which is nationally known in Nashville Fairgrounds. Mm-hmm. And those guys, just like you're saying, they seem more advanced, but maybe it's just because through hard work they've learned this stuff, and now it's second nature.
Right.
And you were able to translate that
right
to the local circuit.
Yeah.
So, pretty neat how it works in racing, and guys, if you stay in the same box, you're pretty much going to stay right where you're at. Mm-hmm. And you've seen that firsthand, and you're still doing that today, whether it be in the CRA series or the ARCA series. And like I said, I want to talk about that in a few minutes, but what got you interested in the sport? I guess was your father. Now, did he just holler at you and say, "John, come out here and let's start working," or did you just be like, you know what, I'm gonna be right here?
No, that's he never never said nothing to me about it. Never asked me, "Hey, do you want to come out and work?" It was just it was something to do. Back in that was probably when he was racing. I'm gonna say in the '70s, late '70s, early '80s. At the time there wasn't what we can do now, what kids can do now, with all the games and stuff like that. We didn't have that.
No.
We were, I was always outside. So, there was always in the garage doors were open. There was 3 or 4 guys in there working, and, that's kind of where I was at, we lived out in the county, didn't have a lot of kids to play with and stuff. So it was just something for me to do, but no, my dad never, and honestly, when I got racing, my dad really didn't want me to do it,
Yeah.
Because he knew all the headaches that go along with it, and
Absolutely.
The time away from how much time you got to put in it. If you do it right, how much time it takes away from the family. And I can look back at all my years in racing, what I missed,
Yeah.
But I wouldn't probably do anything different, But I do, as I got older, I kind of looked back and realized I missed a lot of, like, my son growing up. I was at the racetrack when he was at a young age,
Right.
But it's probably if I didn't do it, I probably wouldn't be able, make a career at it or a life at it. I'd have to be doing something else,
Well,
But
and that's pretty neat too. But I think about it, liken it to my father, and my dad was more into the drag race side, when he was younger, and it wasn't professionally or anything. It's that's what you did. Friday night, be out cruising, say, hey, let's go drag strip, and he got to doing a lot of that stuff. But Dad, of course, didn't really want me to get involved in it because it's a waste of money, it's a waste of time, and what are you going to gain out of it? A guy told me one time it was fun.
Yeah.
I don't know. I probably never should have listened to that guy. I don't know who it was.
Yeah.
It's like slapping for it, but I've had $1 million worth of fun. Probably spent $1 million on it, but that I kind of liken that same thing to my father was telling me that, but I've had a little success, but like I said, I've had $1 million worth of fun. So
Right.
that's what counts to me.
Yeah.
So
and all the friends you made,
Yeah.
I kind of look at that too. It just, I've made a lot of friends all over the United States. I've been, when we were, running the ARCA series or running the Bush series, we were everywhere, and met a lot of people from it, a lot of good people. And so, that means a lot too, to me it does.
Well, I do want to ask you about, you've been in stock car racing, pretty much all your life, especially with your father and all that. But is it one of those things where stock car racing's always been your passion? I know some people like growing up playing baseball, but then they don't really like baseball. They love football or things like that. Do you like stock car racing over, say, drag racing or monster trucks, or is stock car racing your favorite form of motorsports?
Yeah, it is, and I'll get where, always it's kind of like always if I watch something, I'm trying to find something motorsports wise. You know what I mean?
Right.
I might sit down and watch, motocross or something. I enjoy watching that.
Yeah.
Drag boat racing.
Oh yeah.
I guess
pretty cool.
Yeah, it is really, but I'd say the top of the list is stock car racing. It has to be. That's just kind of what I've always been around. I wasn't really around anything else but that.
Yeah.
There's times I just kind of rather not even have nothing to do with it. And but when if I'm sitting down on a Sunday and don't have nothing to do, a lot of times I go through the channels, and if there's, like I said, drag boat race on or even drag racing, I'll sit and watch, the NHRA. But it has to go back to stock car racing. That's what that's what I've been around and really enjoy it.
Yeah, and see, that's like I said, a lot of people will get involved in something and then you say that you're like, sometimes I don't even want to mess with it.
Yeah.
It's just so I'm not saying burn out, but it's taxing on your body and on your mind. But then again, once you're a racer, your mind never stops. You're always thinking about different things, and you being a crew chief on some of these cars, especially for Blake Hillard and Brett Hudson and those guys, I'm sure your mind never stops. You're always looking for that next thing.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I always, I do catch myself doing that. I'm always thinking, even, it don't matter if it's in a street car or if it was an ARCA car. I was always thinking, how can I make this better?
Yeah.
Even after we left the racetrack. If I knew we were coming back the next day to race or something, that night I was always thinking, what can I do to make this car better?
Right.
I just never was happy unless, we're winning races and bringing the trophy home. You never can be settled. You always, if you're not winning, I always feel like, hey, you got to do something.
Right.
You can't be happy with what you got. If you're not winning races, we got to do something to get where we can win races.
Well, I was going to just ask you about that. You talk about winning races, and you guys have won, several races and big ones at that. But sometimes that's not enough. You don't like to rest on your laurels, and yeah, it's great to bring the hardware home and the big check, but you're sitting there thinking, and and just like you said, there's always something going on in your mind, and always something that, all right, okay, so we ran a 14.2. How can we run a 14.0? You know what I mean? So,
right.
and I think that's pretty neat how you're always thinking.
Yeah.
Especially because you've been a driver,
right?
And now transition to the crew chief side.
Yeah, and it really, you bring that up, like with the up there at Salem with Blake, I really feel like over the past probably 3 years, maybe since 2015, we pretty well been the car to beat up there. But now, up to like last year, I can see there's a couple cars that are starting to catch us, that are right there with us, So going into this year, after we run that Halloween race last year, over the wintertime, I done started thinking, hey, what we got to pick out another 10th or 2 tenths up here. What can I do, to get that?
Right.
So it's. I'm always trying to figure out to get that a little bit extra edge, to kind of stay out front there.
Well, I was at that race, and little bit of controversy at the end there, and I think that maybe I think Salem Speedway needs to maybe reevaluate their restart box, restart zone. But
right.
Class of drivers that's up there, and with you guys being able to compete, that's a ton right there, because you've got Chuck Barnes Sr., and some of those guys in the Kimmel family.
Right.
That's big names, and Brett Hudson.
Right.
And that's guys that have won a ton of races.
Yeah.
So that's something to be said for your race team right there. And you only get better running the best.
Right.
So
right.
That's pretty neat. Transitioning into, you grew up, you've been around the Green family and Steve Evans and different people like that. Your favorite drivers, did you have anybody, or do you still have people that you looked up to, kind of thought was, hey man, those are the guys, man. That's who I want to be one day.
Yeah.
Do you have any guys like that? I mean, anybody?
It probably.
Now that includes any form of racing, so that could be John Force or anybody.
Right. Probably. I really didn't. But when I was a kid, and of course on Sundays. My dad would always watch the race, the NASCAR race. Of course, I was always rooting for Darrell Waltrip, just because he was from here, from Owensboro. But I just never really, and even to this point, I really don't have a favorite driver,
Yeah.
But I would say it probably was him, And if it wasn't him, I'd say probably like Tim Richmond. That name.
He was a character.
Yeah, he was a character. But what I liked about him, he could drive anything. It didn't matter if it was a stock car or Indy car. sprint car, it didn't matter. He could drive anything, and I think that's that's the drivers, the ones that can step in run on a Saturday, run an asphalt car, then Sunday be running a dirt car. That's the real race car drivers. So I kind of, Tim Richmond was somebody I kind of looked up to, back in the day. And it really just seemed like it really didn't matter to him. He could pretty well drive anything, right. and it didn't matter what he got in, he was always fast, So, if it wasn't Darrell, I'd say it's probably Tim Richmond. Now, as far as what I would feel like a local driver that I kind of looked up to, and you brought his name up earlier, would have to be Wayne Coakley.
Yeah.
I watched him race when I was young, when I wasn't even racing, and he kind of was he was that kind of driver too, in my opinion. I seen him win in an asphalt late model, and then on a Sunday he'd be out here at Windy Hollow running a dirt car,
right.
and winning that too. So I would have to say, for as a local racer, that somebody really didn't make it big or anything, it would have to be him. Just because I knew that I've seen him win races, if it was at KMS or down Highland Rim,
mm-hmm.
and then the next day he was racing on a dirt track, and winning,
right.
and he could win on asphalt too. So, that's the kind of guys that I kind of liked, to watch. Whenever they can, it didn't matter what they got in, they could still win races in it, if it's asphalt or dirt.
Well, do you think that, and I want to get to the state of racing in a little while, but do you think that these days, do we have those kind of Ironman drivers? Is it conducive? Is racing conducive to that these days, where you can get a guy like Tim Richmond? And, of course, we've lost these guys way too soon. I mean,
right.
They had so much career ahead of them.
Right.
Especially guys like Davey Allison. I mean, mm-hmm. But, is there things that are we breeding those Ironman drivers these days?
I don't really see it local. But you'll see the guys that's coming up in the like the Truck Series or Xfinity Series, or even the Sprint Cup Series. You'll see the Christopher Bells.
Mm-hmm.
Those guys can get in anything and they're winning. If it's asphalt or dirt, sprint cars, late models. Kyle Larson, he's the same way. So I see those guys, But as far as local, I really don't see it. It's like they kind of pick, either, I'm going to run asphalt, and that's the only thing I'm going to run, or I'm going to run dirt. But I really don't see it as I used to when I was younger. It seemed like there was always guys that could run dirt and asphalt,
right.
And it didn't matter, they'd win either way. But it just seems like nowadays you don't see that. Around here, I don't see it.
Well, and it's a little bit sad that where we don't have. Not that saying we don't have any talent around here, because we do. We absolutely do.
Oh, yeah.
Especially coming out of this race shop, for sure, and we've seen it time and time again, and it's proven. But, I hate that we're not, or like I said, I don't want to get too much into it right yet, but talking about the tools that they need to try to run both, is it a money thing? I don't know. I don't think it's a lack of talent.
Right.
So,
and it probably is. It's the cost of racing now is it's unreal,
right.
and a lot of guys can't. Possibly they can't afford two cars. Have one, an asphalt car, and because you can't take one car and run both.
No.
I mean, and it probably is. It just the racing costs so much now that guys can't. They can't. They're going to put probably what they're doing. Is putting. Everything in one, if they're going to run a modified on dirt, they're putting everything they got into that right there, and it just seemed like that maybe back in the days, guys could, as racing didn't cost as much, guys could do that. They could have two cars, but I'd say that probably has a lot to do with it now,
right.
That just guys can't afford to do that,
Yeah. Well, we're rolling, and I hate to derail the fun, but we got to pay the bills. So we're going to throw it to a commercial. Come back on the other side with John Hayden.
Are you looking for a hometown barbershop specializing in the best haircuts in Western Kentucky? If so, Master Barber Chad Thompson has everything you need to keep you looking sharp for not only your special occasions, but for everyday wear as well. Offering a line of hair care products to take care of your hair in between cuts, walk-ins are always welcome, and you're always going to find friends and neighbors at Chad's. You can find him at 10655 Highway 764 in Whitesville, or you can give him a call at 270-903-8183.
And we're back from the break, still sitting down here, Mach 5 race cars and parts. Again, we're on a field trip. I love field trips. I love going to meet with people. We're sitting here with John Hayden. John, I want to ask you about some of your race day rituals. I know most drivers, crew chiefs, and things like that have got some quirk that they're known for. Or maybe people don't know, but it's time to shed some light on that. You got any of those type of things?
Well, I'm sure I did when I was a driver. I'm just trying to think back. It seemed like always, it seemed like we always had, bad luck up at Salem when I raced up there. So we would, I got in the point, just kind of begging for anything, and it seemed like I got where, always, up there, once I did have some good luck, I always went back to the same thing, if that was wearing, I don't even remember. I remember, it was a T-shirt I wore. I don't remember what it was, but I do remember once I had some good luck up there, that T-shirt I was wearing, I wore it every time after that. Yep. When I raced up there. And then I remember that. But I really don't have a lot of rituals, as far as like wearing the same socks or shoes, stuff like that. But I do remember doing that with that T-shirt. I guess that was my lucky T-shirt, but. With the race car stuff, we just kind of go through our same rituals, every time we go, and it's just going over everything, making sure that everything's good and tight, just kind of overlooking stuff, making sure that nothing's left loose. And we kind of, that's with Blake, with his race team, I got two or three guys that help us, and they all know, what we got to do. Right. And we all, it's the same thing every time we go. Guys know what kind of job, what they got to do. But it's the same. In most of the races that we run, are either 100 lap or 200 lap races. Right. So you really got to have a good. Kind of like what I would call a checklist to go over the car, because it's, on like the street cars and stuff like that, it's a high demand on them to go 100 laps or 200 laps, especially like at Salem, as rough as it is, but as far as that, it's we do the as far as rituals with the car, it's the same every single time, if it's checking all the fluids, all the bolts, tighten, make sure things are tight. It's kind of where we're at.
Well, I mean that's it, and again, we've talked about that, and there's no substitute for preparation. But then again, that's pretty cool with the T-shirt because I've been there with a lucky pair of boxers or something. I wish I had those back, back when I won my feature. But it's pretty funny how some guys have things that they do, and we're a superstitious bunch. I mean, racers are. I mean, from green on race cars, and you can't have a wife's name on it, or some people do that, and so that's pretty funny how the T-shirt T-shirt was the common bond there.
Yep. Like I said, I don't even remember what it was, but I do remember. I don't remember what was even on it or anything, but I just remember there after we had some luck and had a good run. We didn't win. I think we run second, and it was like, that was that T-shirt, I guess. So it was just, from there on, that's one I wore, when I raced up there. And, but, I don't know if that's what it, I'm sure that's not what it was, but in my mind, that's what I was thinking,
Well, we can either blame things or thank things,
right,
you know what I mean?
Right.
That for success or failure, so that's pretty funny, man. one thing I want to move in, and we got to talking about this a little bit ago. Advice. From a guy who's been in the sport for better than 25 years and still going strong in the sport, just in a different capacity. We got guys starting out every day that race, and guys that start every year. Oh, I want a race car. And thinking back on your years, what would you say to these young guys, these young drivers, to help them not only start in the sport but to stay in the sport for the long haul?
I would just to look back, and kind of what I've gone through. If I had somebody, that come in here, and I get guys that come in and ask me what I think, and I'll tell them, that for one, it takes a lot of dedication in this sport.
Yeah.
If you're not dedicated to it, because for one, it takes a lot of money to race.
Absolutely.
It takes a lot of time. Like I said before, it takes time from your family. But, if you're not dedicated to it and put into your race car what it needs to be, if you're going to race, if you kind of go, if you don't give it 100%, and you still got to put the money in it, if you're not giving that 100% towards it, it just seems like to me that, you're kind of spending money for no reason,
Right.
and so I just, I tell a lot of guys that, when they're getting in it, that either, you really need to decide if you're going to be dedicated or not to it, and do it right. Because if you don't, the way I look at it, you're wasting time and money, the time is you're taking time away from your family, So if you're going to, if you're going to get into it, you've got to give 100% to it, because if all you do is go out there and you're tearing up stuff and you're wrecking, and because your car's not prepared, it's just like you wasted your money.
Mm-hmm.
You took time away from your family. If you're gonna, not that you got to win, but if you just got to be, there's a lot. I see a lot of guys that's. They're not dedicated to the sport, and it takes away. It takes away from not only the what you gotta, the time you got to spend working on it, but it takes away from all your family and the money that you put into it. But just somebody young that's coming into it, the biggest thing is, to me, I just really tell them that that dedication is what you gotta to be successful in it.
Yeah.
In the sport, you got to be really dedicated and give 100% to it.
Well, there's two things that I'm taking out of this is, number one, we're talking about time and how it takes away from your time, and money is important, and it's a money game.
Right.
Racing is a money game, and we all know that. But your time is valuable and it's worth something.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're not able to, or you're not dedicated enough to, get out in that garage, take that set of wrenches, and start turning those bolts. Make sure everything's tight, all the connections and stuff like that. You're right. You're wasting your money. You're wasting your time.
Mm-hmm.
And that's stuff you're never going to get back.
Right.
And especially if you crash because you didn't have something tight, or you didn't have the spark plug wire fell off for some reason because you didn't check it,
Right.
I mean, it's big things,
Yeah.
And we're not saying you have to win.
Right.
You want to win. That's the whole point of being in racing.
Right.
But, you definitely want to do well, and you want to represent yourself well.
Mm-hmm.
So, to me, that's a big deal. But, I think that young drivers, I think one thing is, and I wanted to touch on this too, was you talked about having the right people around you
Mm-hmm.
earlier.
Right.
And is that something to where it helps you succeed from the standpoint of, if you're just a high school kid and you're getting into it, okay, with a mini stock or a bomber or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
If you don't have the right people around you, are you more susceptible to just, that's good enough?
Right.
But if you surround yourself with guys who are like, no, man, that's not good enough. Why don't we do this or do that?
Yeah.
Do you think that's more conducive? That'll keep guys in the sport a little longer?
Right. Yeah. Because if you get into it, and you don't have the people showing you how to do things, and there's probably a good chance you're going to get aggravated, and if you don't go out and you don't do good, if you're always having problems with the car because you don't have somebody showing you the right or wrong, they might just eventually just give up and say, I don't know, I don't have nobody showing me, I'm spending my money on it and I'm not really getting anything out of it, and I really think that, and that's real big with young kids right off the bat, that they need to surround themselves with people that's already been in the sport. It just makes it easier on them.
Right. Well, we're not, and obviously we're not dogging kids today or anything. It's just a different time.
Right.
Whereas when you grew up, even when I grew up, you look at, and I think this is a lot of people, is attention span on a lot of people. I think it's harder to concentrate with all the things that are going on in the world these days and distractions with social media, the internet age. Whereas you can you can watch a YouTube video on how to, set up a front end on a street stock.
Right.
But, they don't tell you everything.
Right.
And most guys aren't going to tell you everything, and you know that.
Right.
But having a guy who's like, well, you know what, like a John Hayden, and I've come to you with, hey man, what do you think? And you'll tell me some things, and again, we're from two different worlds of racing, whereas dirt and asphalt. But that's something that guys should listen to and say, well, I did this, and it made my car better.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's one of those things where you're right, surrounding yourself with the right people, at the right time,
right?
So I don't know. Like I said, I kind of think that it all goes hand in hand, and you've had success in surrounding yourself with the right people, and I think it shows. So, man, you're thinking back on your 25 years in racing or more, from the track. Do you have any good stories? Do you have anything funny things that happened? Just crazy things you saw happen at the racetrack, and it doesn't have to be when you were driving or just when you're just watching.
I can. I'm sure there is. A lot of it. A lot of the good times we had in racing, was after we left the racetrack.
Yeah.
But and that, and it kind of goes back to like the people that you meet and stuff like that. But we always did. We were serious when we were at the racetrack, but when we left, we had a good time. So I'm sure there's some stories there that I could probably tell, but a lot of the biggest things that I can look back, some of the, it might not even been when I was racing, but when I was younger, I can remember, going to some of these racetracks, like the Nashville Fairgrounds back in the 70s. I remember going down there, and there was a roller coaster back there off turn 3 and 4.
Yeah.
I don't know if you remember that or not.
That's probably before my time.
Yeah, I mean, stuff, like that. I remember stuff like that. I remember going to Salem Speedway when I was pretty young. Right there where you come onto the racetrack from outside on turn 4 there, when you come across, there used to be a bridge right there across the racetrack where people, if they're out there racing, you can walk across that bridge while their cars are out there.
Yeah.
Stuff like that. I can remember. The old, what I call the old Kentucky Motor Speedway. It had guardrail around it.
Mm-hmm.
I remember they used to pit in the infield.
Right.
All your haulers and stuff, truck and trailers were in the infield. It's I can remember stuff like that. I don't know. I'm just trying to think of some of the stuff that when I was racing that. Like I said, we just we had a good time when we went. We were there for one thing was to win, but also too we enjoyed it while we were there. But it seems like a lot of the older memories, I can remember them better when I was a kid, at stuff like the tracks, the way they were and the way they are now,
Yeah.
A lot of that stuff's gone, but You know, I mean, there's over the years, there's a lot of memories. You know, I can remember going to the there at Mike Henry, the old Mike Henry.
Right.
You know, there was memory watching races there, seeing sprint cars there. You know, something. You know, when I was growing up, that just something you really didn't see around here with sprint car. And then we go there, you know, and they got sprint cars there racing. You know, that was pretty neat.
That's probably back when it was like a half mile.
Right, that was the old
yep, you know, the Center Park Raceways.
Mm-hmm, the old Mike Henry, yep.
Well, that's pretty neat, man. You know, you think about Salem Speedway. If anybody hasn't been up to Salem, a lot of conclusions or a lot of comparisons you can draw is from Bristol, Bristol Motor Speedway. It's a big, fast half mile high banks. You think about that pedestrian bridge, what it's spanned across, and they post pictures, you know, from years gone by of that. You know, the Dover Speedway has that now, and I mean, it's all enclosed in bulletproof glass and things.
Right.
But I'm sure Salem had it. It was open air.
Yeah,
you know,
right.
And you've got asphalt sprint cars and things running around there back in the old Rich Vogler days and things like that. That's a pretty neat thing. Were you ever able to get up on that thing, or were you just were you confined to the pits, or? No,
it's, you know, back when I remember that, you know, I always of course my dad and them were racing up there, and that was one, you know, there was always up there at Salem. It just seemed like there was always accidents in the pits.
Yeah.
You know, if it was like a wheel coming off or a car coming up into the pits, you know, it just seemed like there was always something going on there. So that was one thing with my dad. He didn't want me in the pits there at Salem.
Right.
So I would always, when I was younger, I'd always sit in the stands with my mom, you know. But when the races were over with, and you could, like I said, you could walk across the bridge while the races were going on, you know, and go to the infield. But you know, that's how we got, after the race over with, that's how we got, you know, over to the pits, was you had to walk across that bridge, you know. But I can remember, you know, you know, while cars are out there going around the track, people would walk across that thing. And I always thought what would happen if that dang bridge, you know, fell down while people were walking on there, the cars are out there, you know. But they're just stuff that when you're, I guess, young, that, you know, you think of. But, you know, I can remember Salem, you know, it was a guardrail too, just a lot of bad wrecks there. You know, I can remember over the years, just, and it had to do with that guardrail, you know. For one, you brought up Rich Vogler, you know, he lost his life there in a sprint car, and it was because of the guardrail, you know. But you know, that track's got a lot of history, you know, a lot of history there.
I mean, you know, racing since, you know, right around 1949. I mean, you know, it's paralleled NASCAR for a lot of years, and where it's got a lot of ties to NASCAR with the guys like Jeff Gordon and Tony Stewart and Chase Elliott has run there, and different guys. It's just a cool place to race, and you talk about their pit road and how it's kind of dangerous even today. The Salem pit road is very, very tight.
Right.
And it goes, you know, from turn 4 all the way back out to turn 3, and a big horseshoe shape. And it's very, very tight, and it is a place where, you know, I'm sure guys don't run speeds like they were back then, getting on the pit road and things. But yeah, it's just a cool place, and you've had success there, and in and out of the car, and it's just a pretty neat place.
Yeah.
And I know that it means a lot to you.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, it does. You know, I like I said, you know, I don't know when I first started going up there, but I was very young. You know, I can remember. You know, I wish I could remember how old I was, but I could just remember, you know, that in the bridge, what really stands out to me, you know. But you know, I watched, you know, my dad race up there. He had different drivers, you know, in his cars that raced up there, and you know, then I started racing, and you know, something that I never was able to do myself as a driver was to win a race up there. You know, I was, you know, in a lot of situations that I was, you know, and should have won the race and just had mechanical issues. But, you know, I finally got the win up there when I was crew chief in Patrick Shelter in the ARCA series, and our shop was out of Whitesville, you know. we won up there in 2009, the ARCA race. That was actually my first win at that racetrack, and that was pretty special, for me to finally get a win, and it really didn't matter to me if it was a driver or crew member or what, but just because that track's got so much history there, right. And then of course, with Blake, we won the Halloween race in 2015, so that was special, anytime you can win, but especially a place like that.
Well, I got to looking over at the wall just a second ago, and it does say Salem Speedway and Sunoco checkered flag with a date on it from 2009. Mm-hmm. Is that what you received? You guys got when you won that race? Yeah, that's pretty neat, man. I mean, that's something, a piece of memorabilia, and
right.
And the old Premier Glass shop right there on 54 in Whitesville.
Yep.
That takes something, and it is. We talk about Salem, and I know, and to me, that's a local track,
right?
And I hope you feel the same way. But
and I do,
and it's one of those things where to know, especially you think about the Great American Stocks that's up there now, and such the class of racers,
mm-hmm.
and then the ARCA series with the National Touring Series,
right? And
the class of racers that are in there. It says something about you as a crew chief and your drivers. To have that kind of success against those guys,
right? Yeah, it's hard to like running the ARCA series or even with the streetcar. We're running against a lot of real good competition. And a lot of the competition has they got people that are helping them that has a lot of knowledge,
Yeah.
So with us, able to do that, that means a lot to me. And I think the ARCA deal meant a lot because we had this race team out of Whitesville, Kentucky. Nobody knew where Whitesville, Kentucky was. All they knew was Kentucky.
Still know,
Yeah. I mean, all they knew was out of Kentucky. That's all they knew. Right. And of course, we were racing against all these guys out of the Carolinas, North mm-hmm. Carolina, and a lot of the guys on that team were local guys. That worked on that team, and and able to go up there and do that and get a win, it was special, real special, and that's kind of why that checker flag over there, I've held on to it. I hadn't let it go just because that was really, my first win there. As a crew chief, as a crew member, but I know all the years that my dad raced up there, I don't think he ever won. And he had. I know he raced there, he drove, but he had some good drivers that drove there, and it was just, that track it's tough, you got to be on your game to be able to win there, and but that track is special to me. I to this day enjoy every time we go there.
And I think that's something like that is you. A lot of guys, may get a bad taste in their mouth of going to a certain place and, we didn't have success or something happened and we crashed or something like that. But, perseverance is one of the big things in racing as well. And you can't expect, and some guys, I guess it's just they get that lucky streak. I don't know if they got the horseshoe or the clover or the rabbit's foot. But some guys can just get out of the trailer first time there and enjoy success. Mm-hmm. But then guys have to work at it for years. But with the stuff that you've been doing with Blake Hillard and even Brett, it's taken a few years.
Right.
But you can see the marked difference and I've watched several races I've had the pleasure to at Salem. And you can see the success and you can see how it differs from year to year and how much better you get.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, it took me a while to figure that place out. I struggled there, from the beginning, and I was determined, that eventually I was going to win. If it wasn't a driver, as a crew member or whatever, I was determined that we would eventually win. It was a struggle from the beginning, from when we first started running up there. It's kind of like KMS, right off the bat, first year, we can win races. We go to Nashville the first year, we win races at Nashville, we go to Salem, we struggled, and we had we had good equipment, but I think a lot of it was, the competition, and it just, that track is totally different from anything you run on, it's a different animal, and and like I said, we struggled, in the first couple of years racing up there. It just took us a while to figure it out, but once, I kind of, and everything that I work on kind of now, I kind of, as a crew chief, I really know what I want a car to do up there, because I've been there so long, I figured the place out, and if it's an ARCA car or if it's a street car, I kind of translate both of them together, and right now, like I was telling you with Blake, we with his street car up there, I just feel like we're probably the car to beat, right now. Things could change when we go up there this year, but for the past 2 or 3 years, we've had the car too. Every time we roll out of the trailer, I feel like guys are looking at us. They got to beat us, know. And it's kind of showed, over the past 3 years up there.
Well, it's a good feeling to have, being in that role, and you think, and this is no way being conceited.
Right.
Let's make that clear. It's no way being conceited. It's not being, having the big head. It's hard work.
Right.
And you guys have put in the hours at the shop. I've been down here while you've been doing it, interrupting you and all that stuff. And I thank you for letting me do that. But, perseverance, again, is the thing. And whereas it used to be the Barnes family, and still is,
right.
The Barnes family and Chuck Sr. and Chuck Jr.
Right.
Very, very tough. The Kimmels, Tony Conway, the Kemp, Todd Kemp, and all those guys. But I think the tides turn at some point, and guys figure it out. And just like you were saying. And whereas, Chuck Barnes Sr. used to be, just set sail on the field.
Right.
Everybody, you guys, and with a select few of others, are right there to get. You're there contending for the win, and you throw a blanket over.
Right. Yeah. And I think with our stuff, we just kind of figured it out with the street car here the last couple years. We've really, especially with this car here, we figured it out. But Brett. He's tough there too. He's won a lot of races there. And then of course, he's somebody else you got to contend with. But I think it's pretty cool that you got us and Brett. We're, if we don't, I kind of look at it as it's either one of us two.
Yeah.
And I think it's pretty cool coming out of Owensboro, and we don't race up there. Right. We only show up there 2 or 3 times a year and race, and usually it's either us or it's either Blake or Brett, that's the ones that you can pretty well bet on that are going to have a shot to win, and of course, if we can't win, if Blake can't win, I'd like to see Brett win, but I think it's pretty neat that you got a couple cars from Owensboro that go up there and don't race their weekly, what I call their weekly series up there.
Right.
We just kind of come up there and run the big races, the money races.
Yeah.
And
that's not being greedy, guys, because it costs money.
Right. We try to, we just put everything we got into those few races. Is what we do. It's like I said, I think it's real neat that we got. If we can't win, I'd also like to see Brett win. And Brett over the past years, he's been the car. He's won a lot of races there. So.
Well, there's nothing taken away from those guys because the Hudson crew does have a bad fast race car,
right.
and a great driver. But you're right. I grew up with Bo Mitchell.
Right.
Played baseball with him for years. Was a friend of mine. It still is. And it's sad that Bo doesn't get to race anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And Gene taught him a lot of things. His father, Gene Mitchell.
Right.
But the Owensboro guys, and that's what we want to see. And even Mike Royal goes up there and runs that race. Blaze Melton run the Halloween race. And we talk about the big races that are up there. A normal race night, 50 lapper.
Right.
But you guys go up there and, bar none, have to run 100, 200 laps.
Yeah.
So, you're from the get-go, it's already, 4 times as tough. Or 8 times as tough. You know what I mean? So that's pretty neat. And for the Owensboro crowd to be represented against guys who all come from Louisville and from Central Indiana, so that's pretty cool.
Right. And that, that field of cars up there is probably as tough as there anywhere to go and race,
Right.
A lot of good drivers that race up there. And like I said, there's a lot of, just not the drivers, but, there's a lot of history there with guys that are preparing cars. You got Frank Kimball. He prepares cars for guys that race up there. His son Frankie races up there. You got Will Kimball, Bill Kimball. Those names are as good as they get. And so it's the competition up there is very stout, and you got a really good group of racers up there. And it's most of the time, it's now I feel like, we've got like the Halloween race, obviously the car count is not what it used to be.
No.
But what the difference is, back when we used to have 80, 90, 100 cars, you only had about maybe 10 cars that had a shot to win.
Right.
Out of those 80, 90, or 100 race cars. Now we're 50 to maybe 60 cars start. But now I feel like there's probably 20 cars capable of winning, half of the, well over half the field is good race cars, but it's, that track, it kind of teaches you the guys that you're racing against, you really got to be on your game.
Yeah.
You just can't take anything for granted when you go there. You got to take everything you got and more,
Right. And it's a different animal. They've started, they've just done the repave in the last couple of years of turn 3 and 4.
Right.
But turn 1 and 2 is still the same old asphalt,
right.
With a sealer on it. And turn 1 and 2 is completely different than 3 and 4. I've never got to race there myself, and one day I hope to, if I ever switch over to the asphalt stuff. But I've been up there with Keith Martin, and I've been up there in Bo Mitchell's pit whenever they run. So I've seen races from the pits and from the grandstands. So, it is different, and it's a sight to see. And some of the you talk about some of the old Halloween races, even the 4th of July races when they have unlimited starters in some of these races, and 100 cars show up.
Right.
That it's crazy to think of that. But it's a sight to see, and it's a lot of fun to watch.
Oh yeah.
And it's got to be fun to be there to compete.
Yeah, I can remember probably one of the biggest fields that I've raced in up there was a Halloween race, and I think there was 110 cars started. And it's it's an endurance race then when there's that many cars. But it's fun to run when you got that many cars. But it's like I said, it's really fell off. Over the years. But the thing is now, not only, that we only got 50 or 60 cars starting, probably 30 or 35 of those cars are really good race cars, what I would call, they're not junk, that's, as back in the day when there was 110 started, like I said, you might have 10 good race cars. Rest of them wouldn't, some of them probably shouldn't even raced on that track, but it's, like I said, it's the cars have come a long ways. What I seen back whenever there was that field like that where, there was a 90 or 100 car start, things have really changed since then with the cars, but it really, like I said, it's to be able to go up there and be competitive and win races, it's, it's pretty big for me, because I just tried for so many years to have success there, and I struggled early, Yeah. And it took me a while to figure it out, but once I did figure it out, I don't think I've lost it. It don't matter, I've even helped some other guys with their cars and kind of translate the same stuff in other cars, and those guys run up front, so like I said, it took me a while to figure that place out, but I'm going to try to hold on to what I got for right now,
Yeah, absolutely, because through hard work you've got it,
right.
So, well, I think it's time for another break. Let everybody reset, reboot. We're going to throw it to another commercial, and we'll be back on the other side. We've got a lot of great friends and sponsors here at the podcast, and we want to take just a quick second to recognize one of them. It's going to be Martin's Towing and Recovery out of Owensboro, Kentucky. Anytime that you need any locksmith services, record services, or roadside assistance, don't hesitate to give them a call. 270-929-0718. Like I said, give them a call, 270-929-0718. That's 24-hour service. And we're back once again here at the Mach 5 race cars and parts and carts, for sure. We don't want to forget that, and we're going to get into that in a second. With John Hayden. John, this is something I ask everybody about. It's my favorite segment of the whole show, the state of racing. You think about racing locally, and that can be at Salem, KMS. You're involved in some of the dirt track stuff, especially even with the go-kart stuff. What do you think about our state of racing? Is it struggling? Is it thriving? What's your take on it?
Well, I think the asphalt right now is struggling, and you see it all the way up to the Nextel series, but it's I really, for some reason, and I don't know why, I really don't, why the asphalt has fallen off the way it has, but my opinion, as far as the dirt's going strong. I see, for instance, out there at, Windy Hall Friday night, there was 90 plus cars out there. The grandstands was packed.
Right.
I've been to other dirt tracks the same way. I might watch the World of Outlaws or the dirt late models, and the grandstands are packed. And they got 100 plus cars. For some reason, the economy hadn't. I don't think the economy has hurt the dirt side of racing, but for some reason it has the asphalt, and it's just not KMS.
Right.
I see it at Salem. The car counts are down there. Howland Rim, same thing. We were down at Nashville about a month ago, and it seemed like maybe there that it's kind of coming back. They had a good turnout. As far as the cars, in each class they had. I think the lowest car count they had was maybe in the 4-cylinder class, and they had 12.
Right.
Rest of them had 20 plus cars. Every class did, but I just the dirt. In my opinion, the dirt's good right now. And you talk to other people too, and they say the same thing. A lot of the guys that travel, dirt racing is good around here right now. I see it with the go-karts too. We race on dirt with the go-karts. That's some tracks you go to, you might see, a low car count, but, last weekend they had a big race down in Dumpling Valley at Sevierville, Tennessee.
Right.
And I think there was 250 go-karts there.
I mean, you think about that,
Right.
That's pretty amazing when you think about it, and how, and it's not any cheaper,
Right.
To do that.
Right.
So, but what I'm thinking about, and what I was going to ask you was, do you think maybe, and we'll talk about Kentucky Motor Speed. We're not bashing it. We're not bashing anybody's tracks. It's just a simple fact that they have low car count. I don't know why people don't go to KMS as much anymore.
Right.
I don't know what to liken it to. Is it that the track has been up in the air for so many years? Is it back when they changed the 3/8 mile? I don't know what to put the button on. I don't know if it's any one thing.
Right. I don't really know what the answer is there, because it's just not KMS. It's a lot of the asphalt tracks around this area are lacking cars. But I think maybe Whitesville, the reason why you really don't have the cars there because, a lot of for one, the rules are a lot different from other tracks. Can you take a Whitesville sportsman car and go to Salem and run? No. That's why a lot of us have two cars. We have a CRA car and we have a Whitesville car.
Right.
Or a Salem car,
Yeah.
because really the rules are not close enough that you can, from week to week, be changing your stuff over, so I think that has a little bit to do with it. Even Highland Rim, their rules are really not, I really feel like that the Whitesville cars have more advantage over the Highland Rim cars if they come down, So I don't think I think a little bit has to do with the tracks are not on the same page rule wise, as maybe the dirt is, the dirt, and I'm sure there's still some tracks that on dirt that their rules are not.
No, you're correct.
Yeah, but I really see it in asphalt, that, we got probably within, let's say 130 miles of here in Owensboro that really not one, two tracks are the same.
Yeah.
And I think that hurts, asphalt wise. And I seen too, that maybe with them, when they change the track out there, that track out there now is just so more demanding, mechanical wise on the cars.
Yeah.
You got the longer straightaways. It's harder on the motors, harder on the rear ends, harder on brakes, Right. Takes a lot more money.
Yep.
To keep a car going on the way the track is now, the way it is as compared to the old quarter mile. I don't, like, for instance, I don't ever remember on the old quarter mile having to replace brake pads as much and front rotors. I mean, we're always, when we race up there at Whitesville, always having to replace front rotors and brake pads. And burning up rear end gears, that track right now is just, it's so hard on rear ends for some reason. So, maybe with all that, kind of what we talked about, all that combined is maybe why the car count is low there, But, I think it kind of all goes back to, number one, the economy, for some reason really has affected the asphalt side of it. And I don't know why it has, because really it don't take no more to build a dirt car than it does an asphalt car. Right. But so that and then the tracks. There's 4 or 5 tracks within 130 miles of Owensboro, and none of them are on the same page. So yeah. I think that has something to do with it also.
Well, there's just, this is absolutely, and guys, I want to say it again, we're not bashing Kentucky Motor Speedway. A lot of history, Kentucky Motor Speedway, a lot of great racing, still some great racing out there for sure.
Right.
And we want to thank Brad Payne and Tommy Fisher and some of those guys for keeping that track open, doing the things they're doing, and the Greers,
Right.
But the main thing we want to do, and this is the way I've looked at the state of racing whenever I started this segment in this show, was we want to get those things out there that let's get the conversation going. Let's get the conversation from guys who are competitors there, who own cars and bring them there, crew chiefs, and the fans in the stands.
Right.
Because again, this all goes together. You have to have a track, you got to have a promoter, but then you've got to have racers, you got to have fans. So we need to get these conversations out there. Maybe these guys will be like, well, hey, I didn't think of it that way.
Right.
And I don't know if you feel that way, but it's something that to me, that if we don't start the conversation, it doesn't have to end in a bitch session. It
right.
doesn't. And we want to stay away from that.
Mm-hmm.
But you're saying, first and foremost, your rule package.
Right.
You can't have guys trying to change every single week to come from Salem, to come from Highland Rim, to come from Whitesville, the National Fairgrounds.
Right.
It's hard to do. And I know you've seen that.
Yeah.
Especially with the cars you have. So, we want to get these conversations out there, and that's why I try to talk to somebody every week that we record that to see what their take is on it.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yeah, and another thing too, and I don't know what, as far as the dirt stuff, for instance, like last weekend at Windy Hall, the modifieds 2,000 win. Cedar Ridge, the same thing, 2,000 win. I do know that seems like in the asphalt, the on the weekly shows, not count like whenever, say for instance at Whitesville when the CRA comes in there, that's not for a street car. It's not a bad paying race. I think it's like 3,000 to win. That's pretty good. It's not bad. But on a weekly show, really the purse hadn't changed from what it was back in the mid 90s. We're basically running for the same purse money to win what we did back in the mid to late 90s. But the cost of living has gone up. The cost of parts, the cost of fuel,
absolutely,
all that has increased, but we're still running for the same amount that we run 20 years ago. So to me that don't add up really. But
obviously,
right, and also you can't. And a lot of guys don't look at it how much it is to win. Is it 500 to win? A lot of them look at how much second is, or how much fifth is, or 10th is. So I don't know. All that combined maybe is what is the deal, with the low car count. And I know kind of like Salem the same way. When I first started racing at Salem, on a weekly basis, what they're paying now is what we raced for back, in the 90s, late 90s, early 2000 is the same purse, But so I don't know. I'm not sure if that's. I've heard that. I've heard guys mention that. My opinion, I'm probably going. It don't matter if it's 200 to win or 2,000 win. I'm still going. Either way. I never really looked at how much it was to win. I just wanted to race. And go there. That was. I just wanted to be there to race and have a shot to win. Was my deal. I never really looked at. How much I'm going there to win, it's hard as a racer. It's hard to do that, but yeah, I think, just something with the asphalt right now, I don't know the answer really. A couple things I threw out there, that might not even be what it is, but, there's a reason why just not at Kentucky Motor Speedway, why there's no cars and fans in the stands. Because it's the same at a Sprint Cup race,
absolutely.
You watch a race and there's, hardly nobody in the stands anymore. There's a reason for that, and I'm not sure if I know the answer.
Well, and again, we're not throwing anybody under the bus,
right?
And I don't want anybody to think that. And it's just a new perspective. It's all we're trying to present here. And we want to get the conversation going, and have some people take a look at some of this stuff. Because if there's something that somebody's scared to say, because they're afraid of, I'm gonna whiz them off, and they're not gonna, you shouldn't be worried about that. You're gonna show up and race, but you got to be thankful for these guys giving you a place to race.
Right.
And we see that, and they're trying. They're trying.
Yeah.
So I'm not a promoter. I know that you can speak to it a little bit on some of the side on the go-karts for races that you've helped promote and different things and run. But me myself, hey, I'm just a Joe, man. I'm just a Joe with a race car.
Right. Right.
Well, I want you to put your promoter hat on now. I want you to get out your fantasy booking sheet. You look at all the races, and this can be asphalt, dirt, anything. What would you love to see in this area? Something that we don't have. Transitioning back to the old, school bus figure eights at Whitesville, or the chain races, the limousine races, and things like you think about specialty races, or just big go-kart races and stuff like that. What do you think? I mean, what is your ideal if you just dream at night and you say that'd be cool to see?
Yeah. I don't. I think it would be good for the sport and even the tracks to possibly, if it's one time a year or twice a year or whatever, 3 times a year, whatever it be, to bring maybe some of these, the older racers, maybe guys that are not around the sport anymore, bring them back out and let them, if it's to get back behind a race car. I can remember out at KMS there used to be old-timer races.
Right.
I think that would be pretty neat. To be able to see some of the older, maybe some guys that, maybe, some of the, for instance, just throw a name out there like John Hamburg, I don't know, or Buzzy Reynolds. A lot of guys maybe didn't know, never heard of those guys,
Right.
but back in the day, those guys there, they was as good as Darrell Waltrip, So, maybe to get some of the older guys, and maybe once a year or something like that, put on an old timers race, and maybe some of these younger people that, that don't actually know those guys can meet them, and also, get them to see them race.
Well, and that would be a great thing, and that doesn't matter whether it's on asphalt or dirt. 'Cause,
Right.
I mean, these guys are still around. I mean, of course, they're up in age these days.
Right.
But, that'd be pretty cool to see, just as we call it a gimmick race or something,
Mm-hmm.
but it's not for fun or anything. I mean, it would be for fun, but these guys, let them get out there and make some laps and get some seat time back, and it's different now. But
Yeah.
I'm sure it's like riding, but these guys ain't forgot how to race.
Right.
I would be willing to bet you.
Yeah. Yeah, I'd say you could, any of those older guys probably, they might not be able to go 20 or 50 laps, but I guarantee you put them in a car and they could probably run, within a couple, 2 or 3 tenths of the fast car out there for a couple laps,
guarantee you.
And it's, I know back in the day, I've always heard there's a lot of some of the older guys that never, for instance, like Darrell made it and left, but there was a lot of guys back in his day that was better than him around here. I've heard that from numerous people, some of the older guys, that there was a lot of guys that were better than Darrell that didn't get that shot, and he did, But I think that would be kind of neat to see some of them older racers, come back and put on just old timers race. And I'm not really, and I'm sure, like you said, dirt, there's a lot of those dirt guys out there too, that, would enjoy it, and do something with them, if they're putting a race on at Windy Hall, that week, try to get, a lot of them together and do something like this here, or a talk show or something like that, and learn a little bit about them, learn what they went through and where they raced at, and what back in the 60s and 70s, what they had to go through compared to what guys now go through.
Well, and the cool thing about that is, and having an old timers race or things like that, make it an event.
Right.
You know what I mean? Get these guys to where you can have a table set up, and everybody can come and talk to them, or give them all microphones and just let them have 30 minutes, 45 minutes, or an hour, whatever it takes, and let the fans just crowd around them and ask questions,
Right.
and things like that. Get autographs for the kids, things like that. I think that's something worth looking at.
Right.
And not only to preserve the history of our sport, but just to expose younger people, because we know what we go through, what you went through. Mm-hmm. Well, what did a guy back in the 60s go through?
Right.
When it was, helmet slinging, and these guys would get out and just beat the pulp out of each other and get back in the race car and go race again,
Right.
in the A feature or whatever.
Right.
So,
yeah.
I think there's something to be said for that, and I think that's a great idea.
Yeah.
So, and we rely on guys, previous to myself, because, you came well before I did in the racing scene, that have these guys and want to, we don't want these guys to be forgotten.
Right.
Because these guys, we're here because of these guys.
Right.
And if these guys didn't take the time to race back in the 60s, 70s, we wouldn't be racing now in the 2018.
Right.
So.
Yeah.
Well, John, I'll ask you about your numbers real quick. We know a lot of people know that followed your career, know that you drove the 100 for the Pedleys in the late models and sportsman division. Your other numbers, I know synonymous with number 55.
Mm-hmm.
Tell us about that. How did that get started? Why is it special to you?
The 55 was just my dad's number. That was as growing up. That's the only number I remember on a race car. As far as him, any race cars he had was 55. So I just kind of took that number, as a lot of people do, take their dad's numbers or whatever, but that was just just something that I always, anytime I went to racetrack or went out in the garage as a young kid, that's what was on the race car. That's what number was on the race car. So that's kind of how I ended up with that number, 55. I ended up too when we first went to Nashville running. Of course, I ended up going with 95 there. Right. Because of somebody done had that number that been racing down there, so I had to pick another number. And then when I raced in the ARCA series, of course the 55 was already taken, so I ended up with 85 was our number in ARCA. When I raced. And then, like you said, the 100. There was 3 years that I drove for the Pedleys, and that was their number. That's a legendary number. So that was their car and their number and everything. But I think that's pretty well. All the the 4 numbers that throughout my years of racing. That's the numbers that I had.
Well, and we always, and it's synonymous, and we always saw that red 100 and then the tealish blue 44, right there together, and especially when it was tearing up the high banks of Whitesville, for sure. So I remember that myself. John, it's your time to shine, buddy, on what you're doing in the racing community. I want you to talk about Mach 5. Got a great thing going here. We're sitting in your shop, and we can't thank you enough for sure for letting us come down here. But also your go-kart stuff. Tell us a little bit about all of that, and just what's going on with all that.
Well, we, myself and Billy Hillard, we started the Mach 5 race cars and parts 4 years ago. And we sell fuel, Renegade fuel. We get all of our parts through Motor State, and that's All Star. We sell the modified tires, the Hoosier mod tires. I'm selling the Hoosier Comanche tires for White's KMS. Right. So that this is our 4th year in business with the parts. And something new we started this year is to be a parts. We're going to supply the parts trailer at Windy Hollow and KMS this year. Right. And that's really, and we're going to be a sponsor too at Windy Hollow. We're going to cruiser class. We're the class sponsor out there.
Hey, that's my class.
Is it? Well,
well, we appreciate that.
Yeah, but we're just trying to, the thing with us. And this year is our first year going with the dirt stuff. We've been with the asphalt, and we're just kind of, like I said earlier, we're trying to advertise more, and some of the ways we've advertised over the years just really hadn't benefited us any. So, a lot of the guys that support us here are dirt guys, and of course, as a lot of people know, we're asphalt racers. I've raced dirt. But I would say I was a asphalt racer. But I'd say, a lot of the guys that come in here and buy parts from us, buy fuel and parts, are dirt guys, So that's kind of why we went to Windy Hollow, We're just trying to give back to the guys that support us here. And it's real, and so far, it's been good, and then like last weekend, the first weekend out there, we were out there with the parts trailer and everything, and anytime when you selling fuel and parts and stuff like that, when there are 90 plus cars, you should do pretty decent, as far as selling stuff. And we had a good night out there. Well worth it to do it, and to keep going back and support Windy Hollow. Right now, like I said, we sell parts, we sell fuel. We sell tires. We even do, I've got guys that bring me cars in here, and I will do suspension work to them. If it's setting a car up, or if it's redoing stuff to the front end, putting wedge bolts in, or locating shocks, or mounting the rear end in the car. We do a little bit of everything, as far as when it comes to that. And then the second year we started, the second year we was in business here, we started doing the go-kart stuff. Right. And at the time, the go-kart stuff was strong around here, a lot of go-kart racers. So we took that. There wasn't nobody doing it at the time, so we, that's been pretty good for us. It seemed like maybe over the last year or so, the go-karts has kind of fallen off just a little bit, but I think, if we get, with Windy Hall, or with Rockport over there, with Josh Tyler going to open it up this year. Hopefully, he'll do some good things over there, and I know we plan on doing some advertising over there, so, and KMS too, like I told you, we're going to do the parts fair out there. We got a billboard back there, we're going to advertise there. So we just, instead of putting all of our eggs in one basket, as we've been doing over the last couple, 2 or 3 years at KMS, now we're going to kind of do, we're going to do KMS, we're going to advertise at KMS, we're advertising at Windy Hall, and then we're going to do the go-kart track. So it's so far, the 4 years we've been in business. Of course, when we first started, it was kind of a struggle, but it's, I think it's doing good right now, real good.
Well, it seems to be, because, you look at, and guys, we can describe it to you, but until you come down here and just see for yourself, all the stuff that he has down here for sale, race car wise, for sure, that's one side of it, but you can buy anything for racing go-karts down here, whether it's going to be your tires or axles or chains or engines or whole chassis, as we see sitting over here on some of these the carts here. When I talk to you after the swap meet or the auction, you guys, a ton of the stuff you did was all the go-kart stuff.
Right.
And it worked out real well.
Yeah. Yep. We, and it really surprised me. I figured we probably wouldn't do hardly nothing go-kart wise. And mostly race car stuff is what I figured. And, the Friday night there at the auction, we did a lot of race cars selling parts, and didn't sell hardly nothing go-kart wise. And it just reversed on Saturday.
Right.
It's like I didn't sell a lot of race car stuff, but then it's like all these go-kart racers come in, and, and we did pretty good Saturday there go-kart wise. But it's just something you really never know. You don't know what's from day to day what's going to happen. Really, you don't. But with us being really the only go-kart supplier around this area, it's worked out pretty good for us.
Yeah.
Of course, we got a few, around our areas as far as that sells race car parts, and fuel and tires and stuff. But really, over the past couple years, our race car business, selling fuel and all the parts and everything, has really taken off. And I've really seen it after, once even the Windy Hollow deal, a lot of guys that race dirt, race out there, didn't realize we was even here, and this is our 4th year, and I still get guys come in here, and we're just trying to promote our name the best we can, and then it's in, and we just feel like we got to do in the racing worlds where we got to promote,
absolutely.
We try to do some different stuff, advertising it, just like I said, it didn't work out for us, but just the little bit we've done so far at Windy Hollow, we've gained a lot of customers just from that, and so, but like I said, we sell the Renegade fuel. We sell 110, 114 on the fuel, and like keeping the mod tires and the Hoosier Comanche tires. We keep all that in stock for Whitesville and Windy Hollow. And the good thing too, I try to keep, as far as our parts, I really feel like that if I can I like to be able to walk over there and go through all my inventory and say, hey, if a guy comes in here and's got a bare chassis, can he build his race car here with what I got? And I'd say probably 90% of the stuff I do have, but there's always something I don't have, and the good thing about it, I can get it next day, Motor State, in 2 days at the max. But most of the stuff I order, I get it next day, and a racer, it's nice to be able to walk in somewhere and just grab something and leave and able, an hour later you're putting it on your race car, but there's always something that I don't have, but I can get it next day, So, once the racing season starts, I'm always ordering, on Mondays and a lot of times on Wednesdays too. Twice a week I'm ordering. But if anybody, if you need anything, like I said, I've got the fuel and parts and stuff. Anybody needs anything for race car or go-karts, I should be able to hook you up.
Well, the cool thing about it is too, and a lot of people may not know this, you do have brand new parts in stock.
Right.
Then you've got what's called, and I see one for the go-karts as well, but I like to call it the flea market table.
Right.
And we got a lot of stuff down here that is stuff that's been used, but it's in great condition.
Right.
And I've bought some things myself off that table, and it helps out a lot. It's maybe not paying full price. I mean, it's not brand new, but it's all usable.
Right.
And I think that's pretty cool that you can pride yourself on being the brand new parts or the stuff that, you think about guys' budgets, it's different.
Right.
And maybe those guys can't come down here and buy the brand new, whatever it is,
right.
widget, if you want to call it that.
Yeah.
But you've got the used widget over there at a little bit of a discount. It's not going to hurt your racing program at all to have that on your race car.
Right.
Or cart for sure.
Right.
So.
Yeah, and and I get a lot of guys, you got different racers, you got the guys that will only buy nothing but brand new stuff for their carts or their race cars, or you'll get the guys that, they only, they got a certain budget they got to race off of, and they're always looking at that, the used stuff,
Yeah.
And we do have both. You're right, I didn't bring that up, but with the race car stuff and the go-kart stuff, we sell used parts also. It seems like with the go-kart stuff, I got more used stuff than I do new stuff, but the race car stuff is just the opposite. I carry more new stuff in the race car stuff than the used stuff. But there's everybody's got like I said, you'll get guys that that's all they want is brand new stuff.
Right.
But you gotta cater to both of them. You got to be able to supply the used part and the new part also.
Well, and see, that's again, that's going to help out guys who for whatever budget they have.
Right.
Because I mean, I know myself, I love the big brand new shiny wheels.
Right.
Who don't?
Right.
But I'm not afraid to buy some used wheels, and they're great condition. You absolutely do not sell junk here.
Yeah.
And that's important for everybody to realize. It's not hurt whatsoever. It may not have the full chrome polish on it.
Right.
But by golly, it's going to make your race machine, whatever that may be, run just as good.
Right.
So
and a lot of stuff I'll go through. If we buy somebody out, in any of the used parts, it's just stuff I don't throw over there. A lot of it I'll look at it and clean it up. If I see something wrong, if I don't feel comfortable, if I wouldn't put it on my race car, I'm not going to sell it to somebody to put on their race car. Absolutely. Or go kart. So if I don't feel comfortable with it, I'm going to throw it away. I'm not even going to even try to sell it. But like I said, it's a lot of it does. That we buy, if we buy any used stuff, it gets looked over, and cleaned up, and some of the stuff that we sell, some of the used race car stuff, and even some of the go-kart stuff is stuff that come from our race team. If we'll run it for a while and I'll turn around and sell it, maybe buy new or whatever. But some of the stuff that we sell is comes from our race team. And even my son races go-karts, and some of the stuff that like the wheels and tires, I'll run them. Put 4 or 5 features on them, turn around, and sell them. So like I said, a lot of the stuff is comes from either with the go-kart stuff, might come from my son's go-kart or with Blake's race car, when we on the race car side of it.
Well, I'm a testament to that myself, because I can tell you my racing belts that I use every single race, Came from this shop. I think it came out of one of your cars that they ran at Salem. There's nothing wrong with them. They were super clean when I got them. They're a little more dirty now because I'm running them in the muck, but and that's appreciated, especially for guys to come down here and have that option. Real quick, what are you guys doing on the go-kart side this year? I know that we talked about it last year some, and I've been coming down here, I guess, since 2015, getting my car back together. But what are you guys going to do on the go-kart side? I mean, your racing program personally, but are you guys going to get into promoting more races again this year? Or
probably not. I mean, I'd like to, and it just seems like my time. We did that a couple years ago. Promoted some. We had our own series, the Kentucky Clone War series,
right?
And I was really pretty happy with the turnout we had with the series. We had a 6-race series, and I really enjoyed doing that, promoting and working the track and stuff. But it just got to the point where, I got more busy here in the shop.
Yeah.
We got racing more with Blake. And then with, and a lot of the races I was putting on, the go-kart races, that it got kind of taken away from my son racing also, so I just kind of took a step back with the go-kart promoting races. But I really enjoyed it, doing it. And I think it possibly be something I will do. It's, something down the road that I'll possibly do, but I know I'm not going to do it this year.
Okay.
But like I said, with Blake, him racing more and the races that I was promoting, it kind of took away from my son racing. So I kind of, he's wanting to race more, so I kind of just took a step back from that.
Well, and that's, I'm not saying it's unfortunate, but it's going to be good that you have that in your mind.
Right.
But, priorities and things happen, and you want to see your son race for sure, and it's hard to be a kart owner or, kart crew chief and then also trying to promote races.
Right.
And also being a crew chief on, the asphalt side with the CRA car and the different things. I could see where that would, there's not just so many hours in the day,
right.
And trying to sell and run a business as well.
Right. And it, when you try to promote it, the biggest thing is, when you promote those, when you put on run a race or whatever, the number one thing is trying to promote it, advertise it. And that's one thing that we did do. I was pretty big on advertising it and promoting my races and stuff, but that was just something else that took more time, and it just got to the point that I just really didn't have enough time in the day to do everything, so I just kind of took a step back from that. And but I'd say probably down the road it'll be something I'll get back into because I really, I enjoyed it, doing it, promoting and running the races, and I really enjoyed working the racetrack, working the dirt and stuff like that. And I had help doing it, but I enjoyed seeing the final result. Once you started doing it, and then the go-karts got on it, and seeing how it went through the process. But I definitely think that's something I will do down the road. Get back into that.
Well, that's pretty neat, man. And we got to look at it this way: is go-kart racing is up and coming,
right?
And it's getting very, very big.
Yeah.
In this area, guys are running. I mean, you think about these tracks are running for $10,000 in
right.
these go-kart races, and it's just unheard of on the stock car side, and they're just as equally expensive to run. So.
Right, and that's one. I get a lot of people, and even my son. He's really hit me up about getting in a stock car, but with the go-kart stuff, it's just it's unreal the kind of money that we go race for. And you're right. It nothing's cheap in racing, but the kind of the time. It just really the time you don't spend as much time. You don't have to spend as much time on the go-kart stuff as you would a stock car. That's one thing I like about it. I'm not in the. I'm not here in the shop every night to 10 o'clock working on the go-kart stuff. But I really enjoy it. I like the go-karts. He started racing when he was 6 years old, and he's 19 now, so that's 13 years we got invested in go-kart stuff. But I enjoy it, going with him and racing. Would I like to see him in a stock car? Probably so, but I've kind of same deal my dad did. He kind of tried to talk me out of it, and I've kind of done him the same way. It's with the stock cars, just because I know how much what's all involved in it. Would I take it back? I probably wouldn't. I wouldn't take anything back when as far as the racing stuff, but. I kind of been through it and everything, and seeing what the ups and downs there is of the racing, and I've kind of he's happy right now because he can race, he can get behind the wheel of something, but that's I enjoy it much as anything, be able to go with him and race.
Well, let's don't take nothing away from it, because it's just as or more competitive as stock car racing,
right?
And these guys want to win, and they're not afraid to smack those bodies together and different things, and,
right.
and you got to think, we don't have roll cages on those things,
right?
And it's close race. I mean, you're within a couple of inches of the guy sitting next to you racing, so,
right?
So
right.
It's completely different, but it's cool. You know what I mean, to me.
Yep.
So.
Yep. And it's like I said, it's we run on a lot of tracks. Like I said, we was at Dumpling Valley there in Tennessee a couple of weeks ago, and that's a quarter-mile track. These guys, you think if you sit there and watch a race, you think they're at Daytona, because the track's so big, drafting comes apart, they're all lined up bumper to bumper, pushing each other, it really reminds you of Daytona or Talladega when you watch a race from there. But, we run a lot of big tracks like that. Ponderosa, you're probably familiar with that being a dirt track.
Yeah.
We've raced there on a go-kart, and that's a big quarter-mile, 3/8, whatever that is, but and the speeds are, I think they're at Ponderosa. We raced there 4 or 5 years ago, and I think, the class that he run in, they were at the end of the straightaway clocked running over 80 mile an hour, so.
In a go-kart.
In a go-kart, yeah.
Well, and we talk about, real quick, we talk about quarter mile, and we think of that on stock car side as, oh man, that's a short track.
Right.
That's a little bitty old track, in
Yeah.
close fender banging racing. Bent fenders, by the way.
Yeah.
But they, but on a go kart, some of these guys are used to running in the little ag barns
Right.
at these fairgrounds or things like that where they run horse shows or
Right.
rodeos and things, and they make tracks and they're really good, but they're a lot shorter than a quarter mile.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, and we do that in the wintertime. The go kart side, it's a year-round sport. If we want to race every week, we can. We got to travel, but. Like I said, it's a year-round sport, but we do a lot of indoor racing in the wintertime, Greenville indoors, Russellville indoors. We race there a lot. We've been to DeCoin, Illinois, the inside there where they run midgets, I think, in there. We race go-karts in there years back, but yeah, it's a year-round sport. We can, if we wanted to race week after week after week, we could do it. There's somewhere racing, and it's and what I enjoy about it too. It's a good family sport. You see a lot of the moms gets involved. With the race car stuff, and even the grandparents. So I enjoy That's one reason why I kind of enjoyed the go-kart stuff, because a lot of the family members can get involved in it.
Right. Well, John, what do you want to say about Mach 5, buddy? Where can they find you? How do they get a hold of you?
Mach 5, it's the address here is 2035 West 2nd Street. My number here is, the shop number is area code 270-240-5587. Either you can contact me there by the shop phone. A lot of people I usually don't put my cell number out, but a lot of people have my cell number. But either way, either give me a call here or call me on my cell phone, and or just stop by. Either way.
Right. Can find you on Facebook.
On Facebook, yep, we're on Facebook. Mach 5, Mach 5 Racecarsandparts.com.
Sweet.
But either way, they either message me there on Facebook or give me a call or just stop by.
And guys, he's open, pretty much every day through the week. Half days on Saturdays usually, depending on if they're racing and where they're going. Race schedule kind of messes with the open schedule, but
right.
Usually open about 9 o'clock in the morning.
I usually get here about 8:30, and most of the time I don't leave till 6:30 or 7 o'clock.
Yeah.
And like you said, on Saturdays, as long as we're not gone racing, usually I'm here from 8:30 to noon or 1 o'clock. I get a lot of guys on Saturday mornings come and want fuel or something if they're going Cedar Ridge or something like that. So
right.
I really try to be here on on Saturdays for the guys. Some of the guys that now that are racing at Windy Hall, since they're on Friday nights, and I know last year, like Chandler raced on Friday nights, I get a lot of guys come here on Saturdays before they went to Cedar Ridge, to race. But
right.
But yeah, as long as if we're not out of town racing, I am open on Saturdays from probably like 8:30 to 12 or 1 o'clock.
That's pretty neat. Well, to me, it's a one-stop shop. Has been for me, I know, for the last few years when I've raced. So, John, can't thank you enough for coming on the show, buddy. I hope you've had fun. You've shared some great stuff with us. I hope we haven't annoyed you too much because, guys, when we're recording this is he's open for business actually, and he's took the time out to invite us into his shop and sit down and shoot the bull with us, as it were. So, again, John, I appreciate it. It means so much to our race team and our podcast here, and I hope that it's been beneficial for you.
Oh, it has, and I think it's what y'all are doing. I think it's great. That's what the sport needs. People need their it costs a lot of, like we've discussed over the show. It costs a lot of money to race, and you got sponsors and stuff, and this is just another way to get their name out there. And it's I think it's great what y'all are doing, hopefully you can continue with it and just. Not this year, but years down the road that y'all can keep doing this because I think it's great for the racing community.
Well, that's our goal for sure, and to get stories out, and we want to have you on again, especially it's not a one-time thing. We don't want it to be that way. Real quick, do you want to run down any sponsors on your go-kart and the stock car side?
With the race car, basically all of our sponsors on it is Mach 5. We really don't have anybody else. I've had Pedley's, they've helped out on the, like when we raced the ARCA stuff, they were a sponsor then, and they're on our street car this year too. But basically just the Mach 5 parts and also the kart business, it's on our go-kart or on the race car stuff, but the on the go-kart stuff, really the only, the sponsors we have on that is, Tim Pelly's Truck and Trailer. Mm-hmm. He's on the go-kart stuff. He helps us out quite a bit with the go-karts. High-octane wraps. Josh helps us with, keeping our go-karts looking good and stuff. Right. But, that's pretty well it.
Well, John, again, can't thank you enough, buddy, and we appreciate you coming on the show. And like I said, I hope you enjoy it, and good luck to you guys, especially with the business side of it. I know I'll be coming back as a customer. I always do, and good luck on the go-kart side as well. So we're gonna take the last break here. We're gonna come back, wave the checkered flag on this episode, and man, it's been awesome so far, buddy.
Let's face it, we love racing. And we need to keep those race machines in tip-top shape to stay competitive. That's why we rely on Mach 5 Race Cars and Parts, located at 2035 West 2nd Street in Owensboro, Kentucky. They specialize in stock cars, but you'll find all the parts you need for your racing go-karts as well. They are your go-to experts for parts, wheels, tires, fuel, and a wide array of other items to keep you on the track. They have hundreds of parts in stock and can special order thousands of others. Give John Hayden a call today at 270-240-5587.
And here we are back for the final segment. The checkered flag is up.
It was a good race.
It was a good race. Man, we had a lot of fun with John. We've landed safely back in the burg of Whitesville, the old 42378 area code now. And, we're back at the kitchen table and to close this episode out. And, man, we had a lot of fun with John and can't thank him enough. for inviting us into his shop. Good stories. Again, I learned a ton.
I absolutely need to go to Salem and take some races in there.
You definitely do. For your first race, I think the Halloween 100 would be a good, Halloween 200. Excuse me. Halloween 100 is on dirt. Halloween 200 is on asphalt. But I think that would be an awesome race for your first time. It's always a good time up there.
Too bad that pedestrian bridge is gone.
Yeah, I know. High banks, fast speeds, lots of race cars. Big wrecks. It's all. Of course, we don't want to see anyone get hurt, and we don't want to see anyone tear their equipment up.
Nope.
Coming from a driver's standpoint, I can tell you that's not an ideal situation.
I'll be excited to take that in and get to have that experience and maybe come up with a favorite asphalt driver or two.
Yeah, I mean, and those guys are that's a serious deal up there. And John spoke about that, and he just like he said. I mean, you think about them unloading, and with the way he feels confident about their equipment, about their race team, their driver, Blake Hillard. You'll know him for the number 6. Hopefully we can get Blake as a guest on. I mean, we'd love to have him.
That'd be cool.
And talk about some of his stuff that he's done on asphalt and raced at several racetracks around here. So, again, that's going to be a pretty cool deal.
But I also learned more about go-kart racing.
You did?
It's not just a fun party activity for your child's birthday party.
No, it's not. It's very, very serious, and these guys are super serious about it. And let me tell you, I don't personally attend a lot of go-kart races. Just time-wise, I would myself, just me, would like to go watch the stock cars.
Well,
but
yeah.
But these guys are super serious. They are the talent level that they've got in the go-karts. And you talking about, and it doesn't matter who it is. It's young children up to adults of, 40, 50 years old. I mean, it's for all age ranges. You can pretty much find a class for whatever body, type you have. Whether, you're a heavier individual or a super light individual, they have a class for you. Huh. And that's pretty cool that, that they're able to do that. With stock cars, you're limited to an X amount of weight, and you gotta make weight, and that's it. And you gotta make weight in these classes too. But
sure.
But at least you don't like, oh, I'm a pound too heavy, so now I've got to run with some really, really heavy hitters. I mean, there's beginner classes and whatever. So
right.
It's a pretty cool deal, and I hate that they're not getting to do the Clone Wars like they did. But he talked about, that coming back. That's his passion. He loves it. And his son is definitely doing a lot of go-kart racing. And, hopefully they'll get to bring that back. And we want to get into some of the go-kart stuff, not racing personally. I mean, I can't but afford one thing right now, and that's that race car. But we want to, get into some of the guys on the go-kart circuit.
Yeah, I want to hear their stories too.
Yeah, and it's different. It's different, but the same. It's racing, and it's whether they run those on dirt or asphalt. Man, they're fast too, and that's the cool thing about it. And it's not. We're not going to golf land and riding the old carts out there, man. But it's a pretty cool deal. I mean, he's got a great thing going down at Mach 5, is doing really well down there, and that's cool that, it's like he said, that it's promising with just their first night out selling parts at Windy Hollow, that they've gained so many more customers.
Well, I think that's cool because, I mean, if you're in between the heats and the features and something happens and you need it, it's awesome that they're there. I mean, it's like having a mobile first aid station for your car.
It is, and it does help. These parts guys are a lot of times get overlooked, and they're just trying to make a living as too, but they're trying to help out the racers, and that's why they bring, because a lot of tracks don't have a parts salesman, and they don't, you can't, if you don't have it, you don't have it.
Well, I think that's one of the things that he also brought up was the fact that, because he does have a history in racing, because he has been a driver, because he knows what you guys go through, it makes it to where his level of expertise and his knowledge of these things are important. So, right. And then having that knowledge on site, on race day, that's got to be invaluable too.
Well, it is. And, the cool thing about John is, and all the people down at Mach 5 is that you can just stroll right in there. And he's busy a lot of times and he's helping doing things, but, he'll stop what he's doing and he'll talk to you. He'll listen to what your needs are. He'll try to get you whatever you need that you're trying to order, or if he has it in stock, I mean, great. And again, want to echo what he said. They do have like what I call the swap meet table, and they have one for the stock car side, and they have one for the go karts. And guys, I want to reiterate again. This is not junk. This is good stuff.
No, I saw it. It's cool stuff.
It's been ran, but that doesn't hurt it. And maybe it got some scratches on it. Maybe it knocked the chrome off of it. But who cares? It's going to make your cart or car do what you need it to do at a lower budget price for some of the budget guys. And, nobody has virtually an unlimited budget. There's always a cap in racing and whatever you're trying to race. And, that helps out. And that's a big thing. And I think it's pretty cool that he's able to offer that stuff. And it's all reasonable. It's very, very reasonable. I mean, you can get it for a bunch of dollars less than what you could a new one. So, and it's going to work just as good. So, and he goes through them. He knows what he's looking at, the expertise down there. So that's a good deal. So again, it was a cool thing. I mean, it was a fun field trip, and we got to go down there and hang out with him and wreck his day for about 2 hours, and hopefully he's okay with it. And I really think he was. And again, we appreciate him coming in. Real quick, if you need help finding the podcast, get a hold of me or Wes. You can, or through the page. Just send us a message through the page. That's Facebook, Conway Racing Team. We can get you set up.
Yep.
It's not a problem. It just takes just a couple of minutes, and pretty much whatever avenue you've got to listen to it, we have got it covered. So that's the cool thing about it. For the Apple users, we got iTunes. For the Android users, Google Play. You can find us on Podcast Addict. The podcast is hosted on podbean.com. They've got their own app, Stitcher, Spotify, YouTube, Tuned In. We're pretty much anywhere. You can listen to it on the website, www.conwayracingteam.com. It links to it through our Facebook page. If you want to listen to it on your personal computer, you can do so. So it's pretty cool. You find us on Twitter at Conway Race Team, Instagram Conway Racing. We've carpet bombed the social media and the outlets to find this stuff. So we're trying to make it as easy and painless as it can be.
We have some pretty cool ideas that we're kicking around that we're looking at rolling out in the next handful of episodes. So stay tuned for some new stuff happening.
Yeah, and we're always looking for, obviously we're looking for race car sponsors at any time. So if you'd like to do that, contact us through the website. You can find our sponsorship tiers there. One thing is we really want to hammer home is if you would like to be a podcast sponsor, it's very, very affordable. It's probably way more affordable than you think. It's very, very affordable, and it's free. Not close to free, nearly free advertising.
Nearly free.
When you look at what it would take to put a radio ad, a TV ad, or anything like that, it's going to be worth your while. We really promise that. If you can come on with us, we're working on getting commercial for them. But High Octane Racewear and Graphics has joined us to be a podcast sponsor.
It's true. And
for at least the next few months. And we really appreciate those guys, Josh Tyler and his wife Chrissy down there. They got a good business, and they're into the racing world for real. With their wraps, apparel. Any kind of decals you need, monogramming, special event rental, they run that as well. So for, party rentals, they do that. So, we'll have a, commercial coming from them soon, and we appreciate them coming on board. So, as for our race car sponsors and some of the sponsors of the podcast here, Mach 5 Race Cars and Parts, I think you might know who those guys are now.
Maybe. I hope so.
I'd be willing to bet you.
If you're at this point in the episode and you don't know who they are, go back and listen to it again.
Yeah, rewind it. Yeah. Because at least the last 30 minutes of it.
At least.
Yeah. Fairview IT Management, Martin's Towing and Recovery, Chad's Barbershop, Glenstone Construction, and Slingshot Media. As always, affiliated with Casper Racing, Phantom 309 Racing, Blaze Mountain Racing. So everybody is helping out and doing good.
Race season is underway.
It is underway, not for us, sadly, but we're getting there. Got a few more things to tie up. Got to get the motor back in the car. We do that, man. We're going to be pretty close. Going to have the new skins, new overcoat coming for the race car. So going to change up the design a little bit this year. And
let us know who you want to hear on this podcast.
Yeah, remember, now Wes said, first person to comment when we post the episode on Friday, I guess What's the date? Friday.
That would be the 27th.
27th. Friday the 27th.
27th, is that right?
Yes,
Yep.
Friday the 27th.
Yep.
And so first person to comment gets a sticker.
Gets a
And-
sticker.
and we'll get it to you however we can get it to you.
Yep.
So just contact us and let us know. So anyway, Wes, I don't know if you have anything to add. It's been a cool episode. I've learned a lot.
I have as well. I am excited about go-kart racing and asphalt racing, and can't wait to get to Rockport Raceway for some go-kart racing.
Yeah.
Salem for some asphalt. Learned where I need to buy all my race car parts, fuel, and all of that.
Tires and a sundry.
Yep.
The accoutrement that goes
Yep.
with racing.
Right down on 2nd Street.
Right down on 2nd Street. Mach 5 race cars and parts, that's for sure. Hey, man, great episode. We're going to have more coming. Got some ideas we're kicking around. We just got to get there. We've got to get a little more equipment, and we're going to be able to make some of this stuff happen. I really believe that, and start making some phone calls. So it's going to be a good deal. So, Wes,
Nathan.
the trunk, Lou Allen. It's going to change next week. You know it will. So,
Aye.
ladies and gentlemen, heartfelt through us. Thank you for listening.
Yes.
We appreciate you consuming the podcast, however
Every
you do
week.
so. And hopefully, don't waste your time. I really don't think it's a waste of your time. I think you can learn some stuff and just two knuckleheads, listen to us talk. So, anyway,
We will see you next week.
we will, and we appreciate you listening. And
If you see us at a racetrack, come give us a high five, hug, whatever you need to do.
yeah, and that way we can know who you are, take some pictures with us, and we're going to start putting some fan photos up, especially when we start racing. So, it's going to be a good
Absolutely.
deal. So, anyway, for Wes, the trunk, Lou Allen, I'm Nathan Conway. We'll see you next time.